Hit the field, blast off, watch 'em all fall. This is AFC North talk. Got me hype, it's about to be a touchdown. Got the Ravens, Steelers, Bengals, and the Browns. Are you listening? It's time to get it hype. Tune in when the season poppin'. Yeah, we going live. Hey, knock 'em out. Hey, first down, going hard. Yes, indeed. AFC North talk. Let's go. Hey, AFC North talk.
Welcome to another edition of AFC North Talk, presented by Manscaped. We're going to talk about Manscaped in a little bit. Shout out to everybody here that is joining the live stream. Make sure you subscribe, check our Patreon. Also, big shout out to Sports Guru here as a special guest coming in again. He was here for the preview, and he had to be here for the recap because we're coming hot. What? Super chats are gonna be read, so make sure you, if you want your comment to be read live, super chat, also super thanks. If you leave the one, we'll read it in the following show. And I think that's it. We do have one super chat coming in hot. Oh, and we have a poll right now, by the way. The poll is there anybody that should be panicking? Bengals, Browns, Steelers, way too early. Go vote. We'll read it at the end of the show. A guy named Tony Serino here says, can I use a word to describe the Bengals without everybody getting mad?
He's going to have himself a day.
Yeah. Well, he tweeted about it, too. He tweeted about it after the game. So, anyway, let's start with that game. Bengals, Ravens. Come on, Ace left. Ace left when we were going to talk about the Bengals. Joking, Ace. I know you're coming.
Yeah,
I know you're coming. I'll let you Q start it. What do you thought about the game?
What I enjoyed the most about this game was it seems like the first or like one of a handful of times that the Baltimore Ravens have empowered Lamar Jackson as a passer. I have always been vocal on this show to the point where I get criticized from non-Raven fans about how underrated of a passer I think Lamar Jackson is, especially in the middle of the field, intermediate portions. I think he's really good. Where he struggles is his deep ball. He's his least consistent as a passer there, but that was the Lamar that I felt like you could have seen if that offense Greg Roman had empowered him a little bit more to develop that part of his game. And I think that was a very impressive showing by Lamar. When I look at the Bengals, it was a slow start. They had the one drive where they finally looked like they were back. But Ace, I'm gonna ask you this question. Did that feel like the Bengals offense was just definitively moving slow, or did it kind of feel like the normal kind of push and pull that you have with that offense sometimes, get with the Zach Taylor thing where you're not getting a ton of schemed open wide receivers. You're not, the offense is going to have these weird droughts throughout the game where they don't drive and then they do, and then Joe pulls something out at the end. Is that what it felt like to you, or did it feel like it was something different?
It felt like it was some of that combined with them kind of trying to tiptoe with Joe Burrow based off of the performance last week with the calf. But it definitely was some of that Zach Taylor stuff because the scheme was a little silly. It was a little wonky. Them not wanting to run the ball was a little weird because it's like if you want to protect Burrow, the way you do that is running the ball. So I feel like they were all over the place. And then I feel like in the second half, they started to turn it on. I think they also still – which was weird, struggled against the too high shell. Because from what I saw, it seemed like the Ravens kind of stayed in that. And it really reminded me of last year against kind of like the Cowboys. It really reminded me of the Cowboys game because that was like where we started off to the slow start. And then in the second half, they started to look like the Bengals again. So I feel like it's a combination of Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor for sure.
Yeah, there were two concerns for each team I had coming out of this game. Cincinnati, my big concern is for a while, sometimes the defense has been able to bail out Cincinnati a little bit more than I think people realize, especially nationally. And if that defense isn't playing at that top 10 level and then Joe Burrow is nursing this calf, or Zach Taylor's trying to nurse his calf. It's clearly seems like it's getting in the way with some of the stuff that they want to do. And even with Joe, like a lot of times Joe got sacked or rushed on the pressure. I'm like, he would never get rushed like that later in the year or when he looks more healthy. So that's a little bit of a concern there. Like, is that defense going to be good enough to be able to carry what might be a heavier load this year, right? And you have two replacements at safety. Given what you had last year, you don't have Von Bell, Jesse Bates. Those two have moved on. So, it might be a difficult situation for that defense, especially that secondary. The Ravens, the only concern I can really say from the Ravens game, because I thought offensively they were fine. I thought they found a way to run the ball well. Like, that was what you want to see, a more complex passing game, a still very good rushing attack. And I thought that the secondary came to play. I mean, that was the thing we were talking about the most about this Ravens team and this Ravens defense. My only thing that I walk out of here and I would be less than ecstatic with if I were the Ravens is I felt like the Bengals chose not to run the ball, but I don't think they couldn't run the ball on them. Like, I thought that was a little bit softer than what I think they expected coming into it. I'm going to leave my Roquan Smith takes alone this week, but y'all know how I feel about this. I thought that he could have made more of an impact this week, but I'll give him time, right? This wasn't the game where his style of play is going to be super impactful. He's more of a run stuffer, line of scrimmage guy, tackle machine, instead of an all-around beast like Fred Warner. But it was still a fine defensive performance by Baltimore. I thought that the corners really held up better than you would expect. You look at this, T. Higgins really the only one that went off, which good for him because he did not go off last week. But Jamar Chase, 5 receptions, 31 yards. I have to imagine they know that they can do better than that. But yeah, I'd say Baltimore looks much better. That offense alleviates some concerns. What's the Odell situation with his injury? Was it just week to week?
Yeah, it's week to week.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's kind of the world you live in with Odell at this point, right? So, it's fine there. Zay Flowers looks like a real piece and looks like they're going to be able to use him very effectively. Lamar Jackson looks pretty good. Like, I would be super excited about what you got with Lamar Jackson in this game. And the Bengals, we know what the Joe Burrow stuff is. Like, they start the season slow. Joe's dealing with this calf injury. The real question is like, hey, is this calf injury going to be a thing we talk about all year? I said this in the preview show. If we have to continue to talk about Joe Burrow's calf all year, that's not great for the Cincinnati Bengals because that means it's going to be lingering there for the whole year. And I think that's how they can hit their floor as a team. And their floor is still like 10 games. It's still going to be a good team. But we know that's going to get improved going down the line. But yeah, that's the only thing there. These are two very good teams. They played Cincinnati could have played better in this game, but I think they have better days ahead of them, especially if they get this Joe Burrow calf situation behind them. Baltimore, though, man, if that's the passing attack they choose to go with, right, and they're not trying to force the old Todd Monken stuff where he's like deep ball with Lamar, that's going to be a very formidable offense, right? And Baltimore with a very good offense and a defense that still is able to get pressure. They have to send a lot, but those corners were able to cover in the back end. And then you do have decent linebackers. Well, Pat Quinn, did he get hurt this game?
No, he missed like a couple of snaps. He
got back, right?
Yeah.
So you got really good linebackers. It's a committee, but the committee's been working. And you would think a team like the Bengals would have been able to make them pay given how many guys that the Ravens were sending, but they were able to hold up. So you got to give them their due.
Sports. I'll let you also answer before me and Ace go at it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Quincy said. That football game, when people talk about a divisional game and talk about the different intricacies and the tendencies, usually the Bengals and the Ravens in the North, they match up very well. You look at the box score at times, it doesn't really do a service because of those two organizations. It seems like they've drafted, they've acquired talent. Even some of the coaching schemes are looking like it's basically to navigate and try to stop each other. To finish the game, I'll be completely honest with you. I was shocked. And the reason why I was shocked is because the Cincinnati Bengals, I believe, are a contender. And with contenders, besides the premature, week 1, week 2 overreactions, just calling a spade a spade. This football team has been in the AFC Championship twice, and in my opinion, has been one of the best teams in AFC, right? And then with the Ravens, we didn't really know what they had because of Lamar Jackson's inability to be on the field. And then with all the changes defensively, losing Calais Campbell, Justin Houston, not having a pass rush, I did not think how I saw the Bengals, in terms of the bright spots in the Browns game, for that game to, unveil how it did. Then you look at the injury report from the Ravens standpoint, at key positions. The gentleman's name, forgot his name, Makari, the center, in relief for Lindenbaum.
Lindenbaum.
I mean, he played.
Monster.
So when Lindenbaum was the backup center, I thought
Monster had something like that. Yeah.
Mustafa Wright, Sam Mustafa Wright. I mean, I thought DJ Reader was a premier. I think he still is, but I thought that matchup, interior pressure to Lamar Jackson, being able to mitigate early runs with Gus Edwards getting downhill, Justice Hill, I thought he was going to be a disruptor. Then when I look at the corner position, Darius Washington, that play, I didn't have that on tape. The preseason, I didn't see Darius Washington flashing. He played very sound technique football at that slot position. And I just thought Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon was a better collective, and it still may be. With the Ravens, if you're a Ravens fan, the reason why you're excited, and Q hit on it, Lamar Jackson's accuracy, Lamar Jackson's ability to seem like he's happy. When you're happy and you're invested, there's preparation that's required. But most of all, man, their defense is secondary. Geno Stone, the interception in the red zone, I think changed the game, because even if you get a field goal, I think you have something to go back on the sideline and build off of. I think all of that, quite frankly, was, like I said, mitigated at a high degree, because you're not scoring. The questions about Joe Burrow's injuries, if you score that touchdown, is the calf really a problem? You see, so it's just so many different factors. You give the Ravens credit, 2-0, and it looks like they are ready to compete. Remember, before the injury, Lamar Jackson's injury, the Ravens were one of the best teams in football, and that was unveiled. Defensively, with the Bengals, I saw a little bit of hiccups in terms of the secondary. And then listen, it might be week 2 rush. Chidobe Muzier, looking like a little bit off coverage. Maybe Lou wants to play man more if he could go back. Cam Taylor-Britt flashed. The Zay Flower plays. Sometimes you just tip your cap. I tell people that these guys are professionals and they do it at a high level. I mean, Zay Flowers, some of the plays, his speed is going to beat coverage. That's not necessarily saying Lou isn't a good DC. I'm really curious about what you think, Ace, about what you see about like Jesse Bates. You saw Von Bell have the big missing that kind of spell, and you gotta also don't forget, Sonny, Justin Tucker, the great Tucker is he is human. He did miss.
Human. He missed one. Yeah, he is human.
He misses one every year, He got to get his one in. Every time he misses that one field goal, everybody goes, "Oh my God!"
So yeah, don't forget that, man. But what do you think about that, Ace? About the
I think the Von Bell. I think we're missing Von Bell a little bit. I mean, not that Nick Scott is doing anything that's like crazy. Like, I didn't feel like in this game there was anything where the safeties blew a coverage or there was a miscommunication. You see those all the time where it's like, how is this dude just like wide open with nobody around him? I haven't seen that. I've actually liked what I've seen from Dax Hill. Like, Dax Hill has come to play. Nick Scott has been a little bit of a question mark. He kind of went out the game, and then Jordan Battle came in. The only thing that I'll say with Nick Scott is I've seen some missed tackles, but I haven't seen any like crazy blown coverages or anything like that. For me, the biggest thing that was missing this past Sunday was the pass rush. Like, where was it? Like, for them, like you mentioned, bro, and I said it too on the pregame, them having those injuries, when I saw that come out, I was just like, no Ronnie Stanley, one of the best left tackles, no Linderbaum, like you said with DJ Reader. Oh, we're gonna eat, we're gonna do something. And I don't know what the Ravens did with their offensive line coach or whatever, but they came to play, and we weren't able to to get to Lamar. And even when we did get to Lamar, he was just able to just wiggle out of it and make a turn here. It actually looked like a way better line than their starters against the Texans. And so for me, that was where my biggest concern was on defense. I also think the linebackers, I got to be real. Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt didn't think they had the best games in this one. They were pretty much running like a chicken with their heads cut off at some points in this game. And I get it, but I think a lot of people are forgetting how good the Ravens were. Like, even like before they got a new offense, they've always been an offense that scores the ball. So, like, people saying, like, you shouldn't have gave up, 27, 30 points to the Ravens, I don't know if you're a casual or not, because when Lamar was there, they always were like a top 5 scoring football team. And I mean, that's why Lamar Jackson is who he is. Typical people in those situations that I think that we caught Lamar Jackson in, they're not going to make that play. 3rd and 3 when the game is on the line, and he's going to shake to the left and get Logan Wilson to bite and then run to the right and get the first down to seal the game off. That's not going to happen. Like, 1st and 23 and Lamar Jackson, you're looking to see what he's going to do, or 2nd and 23, then he threads the needle. Like, that's just – the Ravens have a good offense. I mean, I think we all knew that the Ravens had a good offense when Lamar is there. We knew it was going to be question marks. The weird thing to me, though, is you would think that the Bengals in the first half were the team with the new offensive coordinator, the way that they were going out there and not, like, doing anything. I mean, Lamar and them come out, punch us in the mouth. They come out 3 and out. At the end of the first half, Joe Burrow had 35 total passing yards. Like, this is coming off of a game where he just had 82, dog. Like, it was not looking good. Luckily, we were able to get a punt return and keep it close. I feel like a lot of people are bashing the defense, but they're not giving the defense credit for keeping them in the game, because if Mark Andrews catches that touchdown against CCB that ended up turning into a field goal, this game is pretty much out of grass early on. So the fact that they were able to hold them to the field goal where Justin Tucker misses the field goal, and then they hold them to 2 other field goals after giving up the touchdown, I don't think people gave them a lot of credit for that, because they didn't really break in that moment. And then by the time you get to the second half, Joe Burrow having that turnover, like, I really thought we were back, and then that happened. Like, when Joe Burrow had the turnover, I was just like, man, you can't do that in that situation. And the one thing that I'll say that the Ravens coaching staff did way better than the Bengals, and I always talk about this when it comes to Zach Taylor, situational football. When they make that interception, what is the first thing that they do? They throw a bomb to Zay Flowers, which is what you're supposed to do. When you have a momentum-changing play like that, that's what you're supposed to do. The Bengals, you would think that they didn't have this guy on their team named Jamar Chase that's one of the best deep ball threats in all of football, because they only targeted him with one deep ball the entire time. And when they did, it was a pass interference. And so for me, the situational awareness was really puzzling at some points. And it's like, we didn't want to run the ball in the first half. And then when there's 7 minutes in the game and you're down by 2 scores, and the clock, not only is the lead favoring the Ravens, the clock is also favoring the Ravens. Then you're trying to run the ball. It was a lot of puzzling stuff there. Led in 20 seconds, run off the clock with, a crucial point in the game and calling a timeout late. Very head scratching. The thing too is, we talked about the injuries, right? You talk about Marcus Williams being out. You talk about Marlon Humphrey being out. You just would have thought that they would have targeted Jamar Chase more. Like, not that they didn't do a good job. The Ravens did a good job on Jamar Chase, but the Bengals didn't treat this game like, I want to exploit your weaknesses on offense. And I feel like that was a huge mistake. Joe Burrow definitely struggled at first. I don't think it was just a him thing. In the second half, he put it together. T did his thing. But they've got to get more creative. Like, watching them run all of those bubble screens, watching them, there was one point where Chase ran the same exact route 3 times in a row. 2 of them were runs to Mixon, but he literally did the same thing. A lot of the stuff was really predictable. They really struggled with the 2 high shell. But you got to give your tip of the cap to the Ravens, because they were able to handle them in the trenches. They were able to come through with that new offense and do some things. I did not have Nelson Aguilar getting a touchdown or being a focal point of the Ravens offense on my bingo card. I thought that it was Zay Flowers, but honestly, outside of like the bomb to Zay Flowers, like he didn't do as much as I thought that he would in this game. But Nelson Aguilar was not something that I had. They did a good job on Bateman. Andrews got his. He's always going to do that. But at this point, the most thing that I'm concerned with was even after, Shiesty throws the touchdown or whatever and it gives you a chance, he was limping off the field. So, like, when I saw him limp off, and a lot of people are like, oh, the Bengals defense has to stop him. Even if they stop him, even if they stop the Ravens and get the ball back, do they have enough to actually go down the field and win if you don't even have Joe Burrow on the field? Because the backup quarterback was warming up. I don't know what that means, but the last time I saw Joe Burrow limp like that was when he first tore his calf or whatever, aggravated his calf. So seeing him re-aggravate the calf had me kind of like, man, at first it was excitement, and then when you start to see him limp, it's just like, ooh, that's bad. And like Q said, that's going to be something that he's going to have to deal with this season. But I think the offense is there, but this 0-2, and I said this on Twitter, is a little different because if Joe Burrow was 100% healthy, I'm good. He's not 100% healthy, though. I don't know when the next time he could re-aggravate his calf is. And being realistic, it's like, okay, this is 0-2 in the division, not just regular 0-2. This is basically you're pretty much putting yourself down a game and a half, however this thing kind of manages itself, especially with us being behind the 8 ball. And Joe Burrow, you don't know if he's 100% or not. So for me, I liked what I saw, and I was encouraged by what I saw. And if we do that and the results are the same, but I don't see Joe Burrow limp, I'm probably a lot more excited and more confident in the next stretch of games. But as it stands right now, and we have not gotten an update on Joe Burrow, I'm just still sitting here waiting to see what the news is on that. But shout out to the Ravens. I mean, they came in to pay core. They sent a message. Hopefully we can get them back week 11. But shout out to the Ratbirds.
Okay. Let me start with this.
So disrespectful, Ace.
That's okay.
I couldn't be that nice, bro.
It's okay. It's okay. The Bengals did bungle this Sunday, so Okay.
Big deal.
I even hit with the Bengals. I was so nice when I didn't. If I would have realized what was happening.
let me say this. During the off season, there was a comment that I quite did not get. I think I even commented, but then, and I'll bring it up here. Now I do understand it. So we had a co-host here said, me when the Ravens fan expect me to take their trash talk seriously. We want smoke with KC. And look, and then you see my comment there. But Ace, I do understand it now because y'all are like 3-1 against Kansas City, right? That's why you want to play them. And you don't want the smoke when Lamar's 3-1 against Burrow, 7-1 against the Bengals. Now I got it, Ace. That's why you didn't want the smoke. You knew the L was coming.
It is amazing the Bengals have won the division back to back with these splits that they have in the division.
Yeah, it
is. So that's why the smoke wasn't there. Look, some Ravens fan get mad at me because I said, look, this game was favored by the Bengals. We had a lot of injuries, right? Well, that was my whole point coming into this game. The Ravens are coming hobbling. Opener for the Bengals. Bengals are also coming from a loss in the division. They don't want to go 0-2 in the division, yada, yada, yada. If you want to know for the Bengals, if you're a Bengals fan, I think who you should be most disappointed at is your entire D-line, right? That trenches. For DJ Reader specifically, a guy that I had just praised during the offseason, you're going against a backup center. You should have been eating him alive, right? And then on the left side, we have a guard playing left tackle, right? Makari. Shout out to Makari because Makari actually plays left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. They put them everywhere, but he's playing there against your premier pass rusher, and he held his own. Yes, they brought Private Pat a couple of times to help in the coverage or in the protection, but still, like, I was amazed on that. And then on the other side, Lamar he was just picking. He was picking his target. Ace brought up the fact that he thought Zay Flowers was going to be more in the game, and I think what the Ravens are going to be doing as the year goes is they're going to just target who they think is the weakest link in the defense, right? Against Houston, Zay, it was basically Zay. Nobody else was getting targeted. In this game, Odell was getting targets earlier, way more than against Houston, right? And then he got hurt, right? Another injury to add. That was early. I think that was in the second quarter, right? And they still were able to move the ball. They still were able to move the ball. Not only that, the running game started also happening, right? Justin Hill got like 45, 47 yards. Gus Edwards got around 50 something yards. I think total we had like a buck 50 or near a buck 50 between all the rushes. Even at the end of the game, when they know Ravens are just trying to burn the clock, they were still able to run against that Bengals defense. The Bengals are coming healthy on the defensive side, and the Ravens were able to impose their will in the trenches. On the flip side, on offense, it is the same. Odafe Owe, which I praised in the first week because he had a really, really good game against Laramie Tunsil. He leaves in the first quarter, doesn't come back. Now we're putting Malik Harris in there with snaps, right? On the outside back position, Giovanni Clowney played way more than he did in week one because we were short staffed in the outside backer position and Ojabo, right? And they didn't get the sacks, but they got pressure, right? They were getting pressure against Joe Burrow, which I was surprised. And to be fair to Joe Burrow, he moved well in the first 3 quarters and a half until the calf at the end when I saw it. But there was a play that the D tackle came in through the line. He beat the guard, and Joe Burrow like jumps to the side and just makes a miss. Joe Burrow, moving wise, he was really good throughout the game. Offensively, this is what I was confused about the Bengals. They were basically throwing everything short. They usually against us, they like to throw it to the running backs. That's something that the Ravens basically had lived with it, right? Like, yeah, throw it to the running back. As long as you don't throw it to Chase or T. Higgins, yes, throw it to the running backs. But the Ravens in this game, basically, because we had also free safeties playing corners. By the way, sports, I know you talk about Darius Washington. He also left to the IR, so he's out for a while. So we have free safety playing corners, right? So the Ravens said, you know what, we're gonna play back. We guys just gonna play back. Roquan was not in the line as much. Queen was a little bit more in the line, but he also played back more than often. And the thing that baffled me, because I think Q or Ace mentioned it, they were running the ball well. The drive that they scored the touchdown, or maybe it was the one that they made the pick. Anyway, the first drive that they actually moved the ball was when they started mixing, right? They started mixing, and then you can see the running game starting to track, and then that opened it up, right? Then you can see the Ravens like, okay, we need to respect that the running game a little more, and they were getting more completions. But then I think early in the year, I said like the Bengals and the Vikings basically said, you know what, we're not gonna run. We're just gonna be a throwing team, and they went back to that. Like they said, like because the game wasn't out of reach, and they basically stopped running the ball with Mixon, and then they became one-dimensional, and that just helped the Ravens. Like literally, yeah, the Ravens were like, okay, now we can sit back into high safeties, we can watch the deep ball, and then we can just help our corners, right? And with the linebacker. So the pick and the play that happened to pick, Roquan is actually pushing back, and Roquan talked about it in the after the game. He said, "I'm pushing back, and I think Mixon thought he had me, but the idea was we had Geno Stone in the middle watching that post coming in, and Joe didn't see it, right? And that's how the pick happened. Which, by the way, Geno should have had a pick six. I don't know why he went out of bounds. It was only Joe Burrow in the front, and he got blocked. And Geno, for some reason, was so excited that he just went out of bounds. Anyway, the Ravens executed the game plan effectively. Offensively, this team looks impressive. Like I haven't seen a team as the Ravens that they're moving the ball through so different people, right? Between Aguilar, between Bateman. Bateman was last game mostly, but say Flowers, right? Odell was getting his, Mark Andrews. Like you don't remember a game that you see, well, there's no 100-yard catcher, but it's because it was well distributed. And then on the running side, right? We lost J.K. Dobbins. I think Gates mentioned it before the game on the preview. Yeah, well, Gus Edwards is not, and Hill are not J.K. Well, Gus Edwards has always been averaging at least 4 yards. He's at least a 4 yard per carry guy, minimum. And he proved it again, right? He came in, and again, I will hammer this because when they scored that touchdown, which I hate when basically the defense go to prevent, right? I understand why they do it, but you see the yards are coming. All you're trying to do is let them burn clock, right? Then we get the ball, right? But it's only a 3-point game. And you know you're not going to throw because all you're trying to do is burn clock. And the run is coming. B gap, Gus Edwards. Boom, 6 yards. B gap, Gus Edwards, 3 yards, right? And then 3rd and 1 or 2. And you know who's getting the ball? Gus Edwards again to the gut, and he gets the I don't know, five or 6 more yards. That for me was impressive because we went from what Ravens are trying to move more of the passing game, but able to effectively combine the running game and the passing. And when you're a balanced team, that's when you're a dangerous offense, right? When Cincinnati was a balanced team during that time in the game, it was very hard to stop, right? Then they went one-dimensional. When the Ravens go back to that balance, and if they keep going like that, they're going to be a tough out on offense. And on defense, look, even though we were hobbling too, right? We didn't have the corners, we didn't have the safeties. They did their thing. It could be because of the help of the Cincinnati coaching staff, because they weren't trying to take advantage of the weakness. But whatever it was, the Ravens did their thing. They knew, shout out to McDonald, they knew how to pressure. They didn't blitz as much because I think they were scared of getting burned. But they were effective. They were effective controlling the offense of the Bengals. And they took the W. And again, Cincy, now I know why you don't want that smoke. Because if Lamar's playing.
The pressure thing, you guys had 1 sack. I wouldn't get too carried away with the pressure.
Well, that's why I said I didn't say a sack. I didn't say sacks. I said we got the pressure. Right? I was clear. But again, all it counts is.
What happened last week too, though? There was only 1 or 2 sacks on the Bengals, but there was a ton of pressure. Like, we know how these things kind of change.
When do you ask yourself why the Cardinals chose Jonathan Gannon? Those deliberations, might have some type of indication about look, because here's the thing. The safeties, I asked you about the safeties. The pass rush last year, I'll tell you, I'm completely ignorant in terms of, besides our game, what you did versus Dallas. But do you see a lack in terms of creating pressure? Do you see a lack in terms of, the exotic pre-snap looks that you've got last year with Bates and Von Bell? Because that matters as well. The linebackers only do so much.
Honestly, it was night and day from the first game, bro. Like, I was actually surprised we got as much pressure on the Browns as we did early on because they're an amazing line. With this game, I don't know if they ran stunts or anything. I don't know if they really pulled out too many exotic blitzes, but Baltimore was just ready for it. Like, I didn't see them get any type of pressure at all, especially Trey Hendrickson. We did run a safety blitz. He just didn't get there. I think he got close to getting there, but I think Lamar ended up running up out of it. So they were able to get pressure on Lamar, but they weren't able to bring him down or anything like that. He was able to just pretty much wiggle out of anything that we pretty much threw at him.
Okay, so before we go to the next game and we do the ad read, let's go through some super chats here. I don't understand this, Q. How does Purdy is it really Mr. Irrelevant at this point? Purdy is good.
Yeah, it's like referring to Tom Brady as a 6th-round pick. Exactly. Well, no, it's not like that. It's just like at some point, like Dak's no longer a 4th-round pick. He's Dak Prescott. Russ is kind of a 3rd-round pick now, but yeah. It is what it is. If you want to just say Brock Purdy is better than Watson, you can just say that. You don't have to reach for it.
Exactly. I agree with that. Ray Rack here says, as bad as Watson was, and he was bad, there was one other QB that game that had a worse QB year. I don't know who it was. We're going to be talking about that game soon, by the way. So,
hey, look, man, like we can make all the Kenny Pickett jokes we want, but like Kenny Pickett, regardless of all that, Kenny Pickett's a 2nd-year player. Kenny Pickett is a 24th overall pick, and it still is in trade 3 first-round picks and sign Kenny Pickett to a large guaranteed contract. Like, so it does not matter if he's better than Kenny Pickett. That's the least relevant thing in this whole conversation with Deshaun Watson. And the fact that we're debating it is part of the issue.
Yeah. Okay. Ravens Nation here says, y'all love to throw Burrow's 3-1 record against Mahomes out there all the time and claim he's better than Mahomes. Lamar is 3-1 against Burrow. Again, that's why they don't want that smoke.
And 1-3 in the playoffs. He's 1-3 against the playoffs.
No, but this is like head to head. This is we're talking head to head.
Like, why you bring that up for?
No. I mean, that's
reciprocal. I wouldn't bring up the numbers 1 and 3. That's all I would say.
So what if he plays the Bengals in the playoffs? Does it just end in a tie?
Might want to stick to the 7-1 one. Might not want to mention numbers 1
No. We'll mentioning it because the whole point is here. Where Lamar is the QB. You guys don't want that smoke again. You tweeted it.
Was Lamar in the playoffs? Has he been in the playoffs?
No, he wasn't. He wasn't in that playoff game.
Oh, okay. He lose to Ryan Tannehill or no?
You better hope that he doesn't. You better hope that he's not there.
You better hope you don't play Ryan Tannehill
in
the first round again. That's all.
If Lamar was in that, Sonny, if Lamar was in that playoff game, you think he catches Sam Hubbard down the line?
Oh, he catches Sam Hubbard.
You think he hawks him down?
He doesn't also a 3-yard sneak or 2.5-yard sneak, whatever the wait. Did I read this? Okay, yeah. We need to give Guru time. HQ and Sonny have natural chemistry from working together for years. Gonna take time for any guests to get comfortable. Hey, Guru here is doing great. Shout out to Guru again.
Guru, is that orange juice or coffee that you're drinking, or is that a bit that I'm going to find out about in like 10 minutes?
A little bit of that Stefanski juice.
I knew I walked into it, but I couldn't resist the play action on that.
Rayback here says, on a serious note, I feel like both Browns and Steelers fans should be concerned about how bad their offense are, specifically they play up their QB. We have another super chat here for Luis says, Q, this is the most depressed I've been since 2021 Baker. That's not that long ago. We have a legit defense and mediocre offense.
It's week 2, bro.
It's like Browns fans be like, it's been so long since I've been depressed by this football team. Like, dog, we was doing this last year versus
for this one here says, I gotta head out, but wanted to say prayers for sure. Prayers for sure. And Pitt and Cleveland need to write an apology note to everyone for those offenses.
Crazy thing, if you look at it on paper, you would think Cleveland had a good game offensively. You watch the film, you would know it was not.
No, I watched that game. It was not pretty. Is Cleveland all bad or just Pittsburgh's defense great? 49ers too great? I think it's a little bit of all of that. Pittsburgh's defense is pretty great. Offensively, Cleveland is struggling, and then the Niners are a very legit team. Her players favor Schwartz more than Stefanski.
Source, trust me, bro.
If Tomlin was Browns coach, they would have won easy because he knows all you have to do on is play it safe when you have an elite defense. When was Stefanski?
Dog, what did you think Stefanski did was super aggressive in that game? Like, he was trying to play it safe.
Yeah.
We were we made it impossible to play. Like, what did he do that made any of that happen? He calls a super safe stick route to Harrison Bryant that's open. Deshaun Watson misses him. Harrison Bryant can't bobble in a pretty easily catchable ball, and then it pops off his shoulder. It gets intercepted by, was it Highsmith or was it Holcomb?
Yeah,
Highsmith. After like a couple bobbles, they score, and then on a run action he calls to try to just get the ball out quick on a 3rd and 10. Deshaun decides that he wants to hold on to the ball for an extra 2 seconds, then has the ball hanging loose so Highsmith can just beat his man immediately and get to the ball. I mean, what do you want to blame Kevin Stefanski for in this game? I'm serious about this because it was clear and obvious to me that Deshaun Watson had a god-awful game. was terrible in every aspect of it. And we can't sit here and point the finger at Stefanski, especially when I look at the tape and things were open. Guys were there. Plays were there to be made all game. Who's not making the plays? It's number 4.
David here said, but Guru, we can hardly hear you.
He moved up.
Yeah, he moved up. Noah Stone here says, told y'all LJ carry bad teams to win like Tom Brady.
Oh, you back on that train, Nova?
I don't know.
You must got a frequent flyer boarding pass on that train because like you be hopping on and off that boy every other week. Like it'd be 1 or 2. He was off the train last week. Am I correct? Because Lamar had like the 3 turnovers, he was off the train. And he was talking about Brock Purdy all show.
Yeah. No, he says that Brock Purdy is the second coming of Brady. He has said that.
He says a lot of things.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Here says Deshaun Watson, Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah, I'm not worried. Week 10 gonna be lit when we put Pittsburgh away in the Cleveland. Imagine being 0-2. Never.
Pound that. That's crazy.
That's
Is that
crazy.
a Bengal shot?
That is crazy.
I think
be Tennessee. Like the time to talk about Cincinnati is over, man. Like
Noah Stone here says LJ 7-1 Bengals. He owns them like Tom Brady versus the East. And then Noah Stone again says, who is the better linebacker, Warner, Greenland, or Roquan Queen?
What are we doing?
I like my guys, but those two are nasty too.
I'm taking Fred Warner.
Yeah,
I'm taking Fred Warner now.
No disrespect, Roquan, even though I can see how you can interpret my takes as disrespect at times.
At times. Who is actually better, Purdy or Watson? Come on. Right now, Purdy.
There's a lot of guys better than Watson right now. Like, I mean, it hasn't been impressive.
Yeah, and Purdy.
What I'm watching, like, I'll be honest with you, it feels like, maybe he improves, maybe he gets closer to whatever it is, maybe he starts processing things faster. But it's 2021 Baker Mayfield where we're wondering what's wrong or is it this or that. We traded for him because we thought he can overcome these issues, overcome things not being perfect, and make plays. That just isn't who he's been. And look, it's week 2, but if this is what it looks like in November, there's no hope that it's going to change, right? Like there's a 6-week timer on this thing before it becomes a certified rust bomb.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, drinking other man's juice is crazy, Guru. And then we have Miles isn't in TJ's neighborhood. Miles was insane in this game too. I'm sorry. Miles was also good. TJ was good, no doubt. But Mr. Relevant, more playoffs W's than LJ. That's sad. And with that, we have
He had 2.
Who was that? Nova Star?
No, you don't.
No.
You don't.
Fire pile.
He won the one playoff game versus Pat.
What
He had 1.
I was
Yeah. He only won 1, right?
Purdy, I thought
that was
one
Nova
too.
Stone.
No, they get to the NFC Championship last year?
Yeah, that's where he got injured.
And there's one bye week. There's one bye team.
Yeah.
So they beat the Cowboys and the Vikings?
Yeah, I don't know. Vikings lost early. I think the
Yeah,
Giants.
the Vikings didn't get past the first
The
round. Who am I
Giants.
tripping on?
I think
Oh,
they lost
the Giants. All right. Well, yeah, I guess that counts as 2.
Okay, Ace, can you talk to us about our sponsors?
Yep, football season is back, and you know what that means. Touchdown dances, Sunday tailgates, and epic fantasy showdowns. But fellas, let's not forget about the real MVP this season, introducing the Beard Hedger Pro Kit by Manscaped, your ultimate luxury beard grooming experience. This kit is your secret weapon for staying sharp on and off the field. Don't fumble this opportunity. Head to manscaped.com and elevate your grooming game with the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. Join the 9 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. You heard that right, 9 million or 109 MetLife stadiums. Go to manscaped.com and get 20% off plus shipping with the code AFC North Talk. The Beard Hedger Pro Kit is a grooming powerhouse built for precision and style, just like your favorite quarterback. The kit tackles hard beard touch-ups effortlessly, ensuring that you're always prepared for the next play. Plus, it has a compact design and easy portability. The cordless trimmer has a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths, all with one guard. So no more messy drawers full of extra add-ons. That's right. Face grooming doesn't need to be hard. Get 20 different beard lengths in just one guard. Plus, it's waterproof, so you can shave in the shower and avoid all that hair in the sink. The titanium coated T blade is tough enough on hair, but smooth in your face, leading to a single stroke efficiency that brings satisfaction one stroke at a time. Remember, the Beard Header Pro Kit is your go-to teammate for maintaining a sharp and polished beard. Whether you're on the field, in the office, or anywhere in between, grab yours today and experience the game-changing difference. After grooming your facial turf, show it some love with Manscaped's liquid formulations. The beard shampoo, the beard conditioner, the beard oil, and the beard balm are key to feeling victorious and taking your beard game to the next level this year. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code AFC North Talk at manscaped.com. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code AFC North Talk at manscaped.com. Once again, that's 20% off free shipping at manscaped.com using our code AFC North Talk. Your grass is not artificial. Keep it shaved with Manscaped.
Manscaped, great product, guys. Go check them out. They've been great to us, but the products are next level. Also, big shout out to the Patreons, top tier: Adam Holland, Dom Gasula, Lee's cousin, Leo Cell, Ray Rag, Wesley Worrell, and Christian Rob. Shout out to you guys. Thank you for supporting here what we do. Okay, let's talk about the second game. Prime time game. And weird enough, there was 2 Monday nights. That threw me off completely. But I didn't care about the other one. I
wasn't even watching it.
Yeah.
There's another game on, bro. Like, what?
Yeah. I was surprised. I was like, my wife said, like, oh, there's the Saints are playing now. I'm like, what? Now? Today?
They did
I guess.
the picture-in-picture kind
Yeah.
of thing. I was like, it's crazy.
Anyway, it was a defensive game. And I see you, Guru, drinking that juice. I'm gonna go with you. What are your thoughts about this game? This showdown. Highsmith showed up. Ex AFC North. Well, he hasn't been in the Ravens, but Ogunjobi also was doing his thing early on. What do you thought about this game?
Back to reality. Hey man, listen. This game, bro, it was literally crazy. And Ace, when your football teams are good, ESPN will put a side-by-side box screen. They need to make revenue as well. They got to pay their guys as well. But the football game, it was a good game. I just thought that, the Steelers knew really what the Browns were. I thought the first game of the season, and I stand by it, I just thought it was a fluke. I'm so sorry. I thought the first game of the season was familiarity. You have a lot of off seasons to prepare for Joe Burrow, and you have success. My question all week was, can the Browns play everybody else how they play the Bengals? And I couldn't get an answer. And then when you watch the football game, first you want to definitely, send your condolences and honestly, feel for Cleveland. Nick Chubb, as Mike Thomas says, Mr. Chubb, he's a great guy. You don't hear any issues about him. You remember him in Georgia, and then to be, I believe, in the conversation for top 3 running back the last 3 years, man, that's tough. Football doesn't discriminate with injuries, and the bug is at times contagious. So I hate to see that for him. If anybody, I'm counting on. Remember, you at AP had the ACL following season, won MVP. You wouldn't bet against Nick Chubb. But back to the football game, and Q hit it earlier with one of the comments. This game is a recipient of Deshaun Watson 2 things, right? Either rust, not getting the reps that he, significantly needed in preseason and in training camp, or that the NFL has basically sped him by. He doesn't look the same explosive. I can show you a broken play, an ad-lib play when he was with the Texans. Remember, he got kicked in the face and scored on it. I'm not seeing that impact right now with Deshaun Watson. No excuses. Best line of football, top 3. Even with DeJuan Jones inserted, it's still a good offensive line. And at times he just abused his development, his technique, what he practices. He didn't go through his progressions. He didn't step up in the pocket. He tried to become a runner, because of the discipline. And then you look at the Steelers, bro. Nobody gave him a chance, even with the 20 consecutive Monday night wins, even with the 10-2 record after a loss of 20 more points with Mike Tomlin, even after Deshaun Watson never beating the Steelers. And how about this? Haven't won a game in Pittsburgh since 2003. You would be, wise to give the Steelers a shot. Nobody gave them one because of the performance that we talked about week 1. They told you that they were the best second in the league. I highly disagree with what I heard about Steelers offense. Execution matters at this level. Everybody talks about it when it doesn't work, but when it works, you don't give them credit. I got 2 plays for you. George Pickens on a slant route, a third and short situation. Kenny threw the same pass that he hit on the 75-yard touchdown in the dirt, right? If you catch that, you provide yak. You catch that, you provide an opportunity to score. How about the mesh route concept? Another third and short. Calvin Austin running right in front of him. He overthrows that. Calvin Austin's a yak guy that if you get him in space, you don't miss on those opportunities, because what you showed last night is even if you score 2 more field goals, the following score of the game is 32, whatever Cleveland had, instead of 26-24. You don't have to go down to the bomb burner. Pittsburgh, for whatever reason, they want to give you the cardiac arrest kick, the cardiac arrest. They want to give you the thrilling game instead of just handling their business. Steeler fans, we do have something to talk about, and that's Kenny Pickett. Q, I do appreciate your you being optimistic and saying that this is early in this development. Kenny Pickett, Q, looks like a problem. And the problem that I have with him is, I'll give you this play in a nutshell. Coming out of halftime, the third and down situation, Rodney McLeod baits him. That's clearly an overthrow. You throw the football away. He tries to make the throw to third and in like a Mahomes. McLeod, if he was maybe a couple years younger, he was able to get his feet in bounds. That would have been a disastrous play. Stuff like that. I saw it out of Zach Wilson. I saw out of maybe Nathan Peterman. I'm hoping Kenny Pickett can get it together. Do I give the Browns a lot of credit? Absolutely. They went into a 5-man front. When you go to a 5-man front and you're going against an offensive line that's significantly rusty, significantly doesn't have any success, that's tough. Najee Harris, I believe, 1.6 yards after contact, or yards per carry, excuse me. Jalen Warren, I believe, 3.6. Jalen Warren does lead the National Football League. Shout out to the 6-Time Champs research team. After tackles, yards after contact, and missed tackles. So that is something that you should look there. I think besides the GP play, the third down, it was a great play. Believe it or not, Matt Canada did scheme something up where it was a shotgun formation, and Take Tiki had to come across the field. He couldn't make the play, and Jalen Warren was able to win, I believe, in the 30. Stuff like that matters. But the problem with the Steelers that I have right now is your offense has no identity. This defense, anytime Sonny, Ace, anytime the defense has 6 sacks, 1 interception, 3 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, 11 QB hits, 9 tackles for loss, 8 pass deflections.
It'd be a blowout.
And then the icing on the cake, 2 touchdowns. It's not a thrilling game. The offense failed again. And my issue with the offense, fellas, is Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin is a guy who I have a lot of respect for. Never had a losing season. I got a lot of respect with. Won 9 games with Devin Hollis and Mason Rudolph. I got a lot of respect with. Has the upper advantage of Kevin Stefanski in terms of head-to-head matchups. But if you were a head coach in the National Football League, and I just read to you these statistical analysis from your defense in a divisional game, and you basically have the mirror performance of what happened in San Francisco. We didn't get into the red zone. We didn't have the ball over the 30-yard line in 60 minutes. And then you look at the presser today in the press conference, they say, well, I think the issue is procedurally. We're not doing the procedurally things in practice. No, sir, your scheme is not procedure. No, you have not advanced. Your staff is stuck into a modern day football when I'm looking at the Rams play the same defense. The same defense. I give you the connection with the division. But did you see Matthew Stafford? He got a first down. Have the Steelers got a first down in the first quarter this season? The answer is no. You can toot your horn and say Cleveland's a good defense. What about the execution? What about the schematics? What about utilizing guys' skill set? George Pickens, 10 targets, 127 yards and a touchdown? So if Deontay Johnson didn't go on IR, will we ever see this game? The answer is probably not no, because of the scheme of Pat Freiermuth. 2 targets. One reception for 2 yards. So the offense, I have no type of answer for Steeler Nation. The answer probably is a prayer circle. The answer probably is going to the facility and maybe some signs, because Art Rooney at the owner meeting, he told the fans that he told the fans that quarterback mobility, he told the fans that the offensive line play was a factor. Well, you go on to get Isaac Seumalo. I'm looking at this line. There's an argument the line might be worse. Just because the team goes a 5-man front doesn't mean you can't adjust. You go 13 personnel, you go pistol, you go pony, and you go opposite of the pass rush. You get creative. You might go a flea flicker. Like, it's ways to counteract an aggressive, a great scheme. You got to give the Browns credit. That football team went out there and they felt that they were the better team. I think penalties, I think culture, and I think Deshaun Watson. I'm worried about Deshaun Watson. A lot of people on the Kenny Pickett trade, did you see Deshaun Watson? Did you see him get 2 fake personal foul calls yesterday? Your franchise quarterback? You don't have Nick Chubb right now. You need these yardage. You need to persevere. So I feel like the Steelers, Sonny, Ace, Quincy, they have some momentum. Can the offense help this defense? Presley Harvin, you talked about Q, was spectacular. But how about Mike Tomlin, right? You had a forfeit 3 early in the game. You kicked the field goal instead of going for it. You know, the 3rd and 3 call was the probably answer why he went for it. The best time Mike Tomlin, had an opportunity to dial something up, he called a triple option like we were at Navy with Lamar Jackson against a defense that's aggressive, that's going to have more hats on the head than what's accounted for. The defense played spectacular. Alex Highsmith, Larry Ogunjobi, hometown hero because his relationship with Cleveland. Mika Fitzpatrick, his injury gave Elijah Riley an opportunity. Elijah Riley missed a sack the next play, made a big-time tackle. And how about JPJ? When you invested in the draft and the 32 overall pick, that kid has to make plays. He made 2 big-time plays. A lot of people want to make the issue about a pass interference or holding call. Guess what, folks? If they don't call it, it's not a foul. That's the league we're in. I like the confidence in this team. They play a Raiders team. They better take seriously and game plan for. But the Browns have a problem with their head. They couldn't beat the Steelers without Kenny Pickett flourishing. Imagine what the score would have been, Sonny, Ace, Quincy, if the offense was productive. If the offense was ahead of schedule. If the offense did not, be consistently invincible. It might be the worst offensive football. I can tell you that. But I'm so thankful I'm wearing this jersey today. The franchise sack leader, stand-up guy, is somebody who, is contagious and always itching for a victory, man. But 1-0 in the AFC North looks like this.
So I will say this. One thing, Q, that I look for both Steelers and the Browns is the O-line. The O-line struggle for both teams. I think you're muted.
So I knew you were going to go to the trenches.
The left tackle play was not existent for neither team. Like I was like, as bad as Watson was, and he was bad, right? He was bad. There was times that the ball was snapping. Highsmith was there, or TJ Watt was there.
Larry Ogunjobi in his lap.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, I get it. Watson's not good because when he had time, he wasn't good. But also that O-line. We had talked about Cleveland's O-line a couple past years, how they were really good, and they slowly had not gotten worse. Not bad, but But the guy, and Q, you mentioned him. I think it was last week.
Tony knows the word in the comment section. Tony knows the word for what he wants.
There's some regression there, but the left tackle, right, Wills, he specifically, after a great rookie year, right? As a rookie, he came. People are like, well, he played right tackle. Can he play left tackle? He showed up how he was good as a left tackle. And with time, I feel like he has not been the guy that we thought, right? If he played here as a rookie, you can only go up. So O-line for both teams. But in the case of Cleveland, being a veteran O-line, Steelers are still trying to gel and might be worse, as you said, Guru, might be better. We'll see with time. But in Cleveland, you're talking about mostly veteran. I know that the rookie was there on the right tackle side. That is concerning. I think that also doesn't help in the case of Watson, because Watson likes to hold the ball. Now, Q, saying all that, what is your thoughts on this game?
How much time you got? There's a lot of thoughts to get out of here, right? First, I'll start with some of the positive stuff. I thought the defense played well. I thought the game plan going in should be what they did. Basically, close some, like, just trust your guys on the outside, play a lot of man, force Kenny Pickett to make some throws in the middle of the field where he's proven to be uncomfortable. And, Guru brought it up. Hey, look, if they execute, they look like a much better offense, but part of the game plan was that the Browns kind of trusted that they didn't think Kenny Pickett could execute, and he followed through on that. Defense did a good enough job stopping what was there. They had the one mistake on the George Pickens play where, for whatever reason, I think it looked like JOK was trying to carry the deep seam, which that's choice after you have him kind of stunt a blitz. I don't know. It was a weird decision there, right? Maybe Pittsburgh caught him in a bad play call, but whatever happened there is what happened. But let's be real. The defense gave up 9 points, right? Like, they gave up 9 points. The other 17 points came from bad punt coverage, came from horrible execution on offense, whoever you want to blame it on. But before I get into that, I want to still talk about some good. Jerome Ford played really well, right? I thought made some plays, got some runs out there. I was really excited with what they got out of him. It sucks that Chubb goes down, but he seems like somebody who there's some potential there for him to carry the load. I do worry he's a little bit thin for a running back, so I don't know if he's going to be able to take the amount of carries that Nick Chubb was touted to take. And it's not the same offense without Nick Chubb there, without the respect that Nick Chubb commands, no matter how much production you get out of somebody not named Nick Chubb, because the name of Nick Chubb commands a different level of respect from defensive coordinators. We all know what it is there. Let's talk about the offense. We talk a lot about the struggles of Jed Wills, and valid, right? Jed Wills has had struggles. But boy, oh boy, Wyatt Teller and Ethan Posick are sliding. They are absolutely sliding on what was a awful game. And Wyatt Teller, a former All-Pro, has gotten consistently worse every year since 2020, to the point to where it's like, who is this dude? Right? Like, it's not been what you want it to be. The only two good offensive linemen in this game were DeJuan Jones, a rookie, and Joe Bitonio. DeJuan, he had TJ Watt. It was a tough assignment, but I felt like that wasn't a disaster like we've seen it be a disaster with guys lined up with TJ Watt before. I thought he did a relatively well enough job. He had a couple holding penalties, gave up a couple pressures. I think he even gave up a sack. But you're going up against TJ Watt, like that's fine. I'm fine with DeJuan Jones giving that up versus one of the best defensive players in football. But the interior, those two guys specifically, that's a concern. Jed Wills, man, like I brought this up last week. I brought this up during the preview. Everybody was talking about the DeJuan Jones, TJ Watt, DeJuan Jones, TJ Watt. I was like, what about Alex Highsmith in Jed Wills? That's a terrible matchup for Jed. Jed has been especially awful. It's being compounded by Deshaun Watson's pocket presence and him holding on to the ball. And it's just a disaster right now between the both of them. And if we're not going to get better protection in the middle from Posick, from Wyatt Teller, then this is just going to be a mess all year. Let's talk about Watson. If I am going to be optimistic about what the issues are, I would say this looks like somebody who's still adjusting to NFL game speed. Like, he looks like a guy that has practiced a lot of football, not played a lot of football. You look at the throws that he had that were good in this game, right? There were a couple sideline 50-50 balls on some third downs that he threw that were pretty good, that a couple of them they came down with later in the game, especially one to Amari Cooper and one to Elijah Moore. Another one to Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore was just out by like a half an inch there. And those are the balls that like you can throw in practice and you can get a good feel for what the game speed's going to be. But all of the stuff where you need a feel for the game speed and some pressure, the stuff in the middle of the field, the stuff deep to intermediate, he's awful at. He's late all the time with his eyes. He's late getting to throws. He's late getting to spots. He's late getting the ball out of his hands. And it's fine and well that he could do some of the other stuff, you know, get to break the pocket and all that. But I really just need him to take what's there because it's there. And he's not taking it. And the part of the reason he's not taking it is because he's late. Part of the reason he's getting sacked all the time is because he's late. Part of the reason he gets all these balls tipped is because he's late. His eyes aren't there. He's not processing at the same speed that he processed in Houston. And I don't think it's the offense that's breaking him. I don't think it's that. It's there. It's made easy for him. There are some reads here. The Steelers early in the game saw a blitz with TJ Watt, where TJ Watt was standing out in coverage to start the snap. You see TJ Watt come in. You have a route clearing underneath with Pierre Strong, replacing the space that TJ Watt has. This is quarterback one-on-one. This is basic fundamentals of football. If they send a blitz, throw to the empty space. Instead of trying to get the empty space, his eyes get big for whatever reason and decide, no, I want to see what this one-on-one matchup is with Elijah Moore and Pat Peterson to hit a home run. He holds the ball, waits for that deep route, like a 40-yard route to develop. By the time he gets his eyes back to Pierre Strong, he's sacked. He's not playing good football mentally. Like either he's processing slow or he's making terrible decisions with where he wants to start his eyes in these reads because he's not taking what's there. He's doing way too much. He's trying to get the big play. He's trying to get the monkey off his back. He's trying to get everybody to love him again. And it's not working. He just needs to play regular football. But I don't know if that's coming because it ain't look like it's coming. And in camp, it looked like he was doing these things, but the second the games start, he's doing the same exact stuff, pressing, waiting too long for things to develop downfield, being greedy, trying to get things down there when he just doesn't have to. Pittsburgh was giving you yards all day. Pittsburgh was allowing you to move the ball all day. I felt like they had a good idea to do this when Nick Chubb was in the game because they were able to move the football when Nick Chubb was in there. Nick Chubb goes out, all of a sudden he's trying to throw every deep ball possible. He's holding on to the ball. Notice when he throws a lot of these balls, how many times you see him throw to somebody who's standing still? That's not because Kevin Stefanski's like, hey, run this route and stay here for 5 seconds. It's because the route is done by the time he's ready to get rid of the football. When you're standing still against a defense as fast as Pittsburgh, they're going to crash on the ball. They're going to get there. They're going to make a play. They're aggressive. It's frustrating to be in this same spot because you can rewind and go back to this show in week 3 or whatever in 2021, and I'm saying the same exact shit about Baker Mayfield. So for Deshaun Watson, for this Browns offense, this performance can either define you in one way or the other. Either this is the performance that got everybody to get this shit together and figure out just to take what's there, be a little bit more patient, stop pressing, play some regular football, and then maybe you'll look better. Or we're going to just say, hey, we're going to keep trying to press. We're going to keep trying to do the same shit because this is unacceptable football. Unacceptable. You outrun the Pittsburgh Steelers by like 100 or something yards. You outgained them in the passing attack by like 200 yards. You completely shut them down in the fourth quarter. What was it? -7 offensive yards in the fourth quarter? And you found a way to blow a lead? Unbelievable. And he blows the lead. Why? Because he's holding on to the ball, trying to make something happen when he just doesn't have to. It's infuriating. I don't know what's encouraging this style of play from him. I don't know why he thinks he can still get away with it at this point. It's not happening. Maybe this is the wake-up call that he needs. He needs to take the crutches from the offense. He needs to take the things that are there. If he can't get to that point in like 6 weeks, we're going to start having a real conversation about who's better for this offense, because there are guys in this quarterback room. There's a guy in this quarterback room who will take what's there. And that's all this offense needs right now, is somebody to take what's there. And that's the frustrating part. It was the case against Cincinnati. Things were there. He wasn't taking it. He was trying to make these different plays, throw it downfield. Okay, whatever. You won the game. You found a way to score 2 touchdowns. I'm fine with it. Game like this, that pressing, that cost you this game. That made you fumble this ball. That put you in a position to have bad field position all game and give Pittsburgh plus field position all game. Just bad football offensively. Horrible football from your offensive line. Horrible football from your quarterback. Horrible football from your leader, right? He's a captain, right? So what's going on there? Nick Chubb goes down, and now we're getting into arguments with the Steelers sideline. We're letting Nick Herbig bug you on the sideline? Are you serious? Like, it's just depressing to see that. Because this was a play. Like, if you would have just switched the numbers out and changed 4 to 6, I've seen this game from Baker Mayfield arguing that unnecessarily with players, getting like weird penalties called on him because he's being an asshole on the sideline, missing throws, not taking what's there, trying to make plays. I've seen this game from Baker Mayfield. You did not trade 3 first-round picks and pay $230 million to get broken label and Baker Mayfield again, with a lot more baggage. So this is either going to be a defining moment. There's no way they can look at this tape and lie to themselves that this was a good game, that really just a couple things went wrong. No, this is a come to Jesus game. Like, this is the come to Jesus tape. You have to look at this tape and go, all right, things got to change. And if they don't, this is where I'm going to end up. So either Deshaun Watson's going to be another quarterback who got traded somewhere and became a bum, or he's going to figure out something after watching this. We'll see on Sunday. We'll see for the rest of the season. We'll see what happens by November. But that's what the truth is about the situation. Like, you know, that's as optimistic as I can be about it is, hey, maybe he realizes that this is just never going to cut it. Never going to cut it. Against the AFC North team, against the Pittsburgh Steelers in the NFL, it's not going to cut it. Now, again, we've seen other teams in the AFC North have games like this. Watch that come to Jesus tape and come back to God, right? Like, we've seen it with the Bengals. We've seen it with We've seen it with Baltimore. We've seen it. We've even seen it with the Browns in 2020 when Pittsburgh beat them 38-7, and then they went on a run shortly after that and made the playoffs, won that playoff game in 2020, had the best run that they've had since expansion. So, all on the line here, man. Like, you know, we can call it what it is. I can keep talking about how terrible it was, but it's really going to matter how they respond to this and what we see next week, because if we see the same garbage next week, then I know what it is. Like, we all know what it is. It's not changing. He does not care enough to change it, because this stuff's fixable. Taking the easy stuff, it's all fixable. It's all right there.
Yeah,
the question is, does he want to do it?
Yeah, one thing, and I'm sure Stefanski will want to get this back. I know Amari Cooper was late. It was a late issue Friday or Saturday with the groin. He came hot, and that was a little skeptic. I'm gonna read these numbers. I told you JPJ had 7 yards. I think Elijah Moore had, no more than 40. Amari Cooper, in the limited snaps, he was productive, but Levi Wallace, 8 targets, 5 receptions, 56 yards. Patrick Peterson, 4 targets, 2 receptions, 46 yards. Chandon Sullivan, 4 targets, 4 receptions, 29 yards. JPJ, 2 targets, 0 receptions, 0 allowed. That right there, if you get 50 yards from Elijah Moore, if you get a big play, a chunk play with DPJ, that might be the difference. That's all.
Yeah, and I can understand why he would want to make the difference and get that chunk play, but you got to look at the situation in the game, and that's what I thought was frustrating. Was you were never in a spot where you had to press if you were the Cleveland Browns. You were always within a score of this game, or you had the lead, right? And if this were a situation where you're down 14, hey, you got to press. You got to try to make these plays. But we have not seen this dude be down double digits yet, but yet he consistently is playing as if he's down double digits. That's what's frustrating, right? We're talking about this in the Bengals game where they never didn't have the lead, right? Where he's not taking what's there. We're talking about this in the Steelers game where the Steelers offense never felt like it was a genuine threat to score points. It was mind-boggling that he felt the need to try to rip these chunk plays. And it to me, it tells me, like, to me, my base feeling, and I'm not saying I know anything from the locker room or anything, but my base feeling from that is like, that's not about the game. That's about you wanting to do that. Because if it were about the game, you would have took what's easy. If it was about winning the game, you would take what's easy. But when you're trying to make a big rip and try to make these big plays when the situation is a call for it, that tells me you're trying to prove something to yourself or to your haters or whatever it is. And that's not helping this team win. So whatever it is, the captain of the team has to figure out how he's going to help this team win football games, because it's just him there. It's him. It's this passing attack and basically a rookie in Jerome Ford, because he didn't play much last year. So, they got to figure it out.
Yeah, I agree. So I will also say this. In the case of Watson, I remember when he was in Houston, he liked to sometimes overly extend plays. Hold the ball, because he likes to find the deep pass. It's something that he has always liked. And I don't know if he just likes to play in the broken play, quote unquote, more backyard football, because Stefanski looks more of a coach that is more structured, right? This is the play 2-3 shotgun, but he's your read, that's your read, right? There's no Stefanski looks to me like we're gonna run play action that's gonna open up, right, short passes here or there. But Watson looks more in Houston, and we'll see in Cleveland if he continues, because he was young in Houston. By now he's a vet, but he was always. That's why look, the Ravens always sacked Watson a ton when he was in Houston, because he just held the ball. It wasn't like we were just beating the O-line left and right. He was holding the ball so
Tell
long.
me, when's the last time you seen Watson throw hot to somebody?
I don't remember.
I can't remember the last time I've seen him throw hot. Like, this is the stuff that's like, he talks all about wanting to be better than 2020 Watson, not wanting to be back to that. This is the stuff that's going to make you better, right? Tom Brady, all the great quarterbacks, even Pat Mahomes, even the improvisers of the world, they're great because when it comes down to it, they'll take the profit, right? One of the things that Pat Mahomes did in that championship game against the Bengals was start just taking the profit, right? Because that was the big concern. Can Pat take the profit? Will he try to shoot downfield? Will he try to get that? And what was Pat doing? Just dinking and dunking, just diming you out until you got tired of it, and then finding a way to stretch you to make a big play. You got to be patient as a quarterback. If you're not patient as a quarterback, you're not going to be a good quarterback. You're not a quarterback that you can win a championship with. There's obviously extremes to this. You don't want to be so patient that you turn into Kirk Cousins. Like, you want to take the ball downfield sometimes, but if you can't have enough patience to take what's in front of you in a game where you're either leading or down 2 or 3 points, then, brother, this ain't going to work. So he's got to find it. He's got to find it.
Yes. Ace.
He's in there somewhere. I believe that was my famous quote about Deshaun Watson. My thing with Deshaun Watson and Stefanski, to me, it's always been a little bit of a weird marriage, because Kevin Stefanski, since he's been a play caller in the NFL, he's never been a guy that really throws the ball. I always wondered how that was really gonna kind of work together, because he always hovers around 50 to 40% in terms of passing. So I'm going to take the first game out, because obviously it was weather conditions. So obviously you're going to run in that unless you're Zach Taylor. You just don't decide to run in the rain. But with the Browns, we're going to take that one out. He passed the ball 56% of the time. The 2020 Deshaun Watson stuff didn't make sense to me, because Deshaun Watson in that time period was throwing the ball at least 60+% of the time. And so in order for this to work, that has to be married. But we've seen Deshaun pass in this offense, and it just hasn't been good. I mean, the way that game started off, I know that it did bounce off of other people, but we just have not seen that Deshaun Watson that we're used to seeing. I don't know if it's because of the time off. I don't know if it's because of the way that the NFL has changed in those 2 years. But
he looked hesitant to throw the ball at times.
Yeah,
like he looked like he just didn't trust his arm. Like it was like rookie stuff sometimes.
I didn't see
it was nasty. So I mean, this team is gonna go where Deshaun Watson takes them, and they're gonna have to live and die with Deshaun Watson. But I don't want to put too much spotlight just on Deshaun Watson because I know that that's kind of the trending topic. What Guru said about this offense is right, man. When you look at PFF, the Steelers' offense is last. When you look at the EPA through 2 weeks, the Steelers' offense is last. And you would expect that the way that they were playing their defense, that, you know, the key ingredient back in the day was have an elite defense, have a dominant run game. The Steelers don't have a dominant run game. They don't have a good run game. So the fact that they were able to score as many points as they did in this game and have, you know, the yardage that they had on offense without being able to run the ball, with having their defense dominate and get 6 sacks. I mean, I thought going into this season, I think when we did the edge room rankings, I think I said that possibly the Browns had, you know, one of the best tandems in the league. The way that Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt played last night, it might be them because the way that those guys were able to make plays for their team. You talk about 2 guys that scored touchdowns. That's insane. That is insane that 2 edge rushers scored a touchdown in a game where the offense just couldn't do anything. Like, that's crazy. Like, you're lucky if you even get one. I don't even want to know what the fantasy points were on that last night. Luckily, I was not playing against the Steelers defense, but that is insane, bro. The Steelers are finding a way to win in an era where most of these offenses are high-powered. You got to score points. You got to do this. They're finding a way to win. And I thought that, you know, although the Browns did face some adversity with the Nick Chubb thing, I thought the kid that came in, Jerome Ford, I thought he did an admirable job in that aspect of things. But the Steelers, bro, it's just they found a way to win this game. They're 1-0 in the division right now. They're 1-1. They got the Texans and the Raiders coming up next. The Steelers are going to be a force to reckon with in this division because they're playing against teams where they're going to have a chance. And I think the 49ers was obviously the tough game. We thought that the Browns was going to be the tough game as well. They were able to pass that test. I can't believe it, bro. I can't believe that they're finding a way to win. And I don't think that it's going to slow down. If those guys stay healthy, and here's the biggest thing, Minkah Fitzpatrick exited that game. Like that, like a lot of people aren't talking about that. Luckily for him, he's good with the chest contusion. But that's another guy that was on their team that was missing. Larry Ogunjobi, Guru, you talked about it. I'm pretty sure he has some extra pep in his step playing against the Browns. He'll probably have that same juice when he plays against Cincinnati as well. DeMarvin Leal, a guy that I was waiting for last year to take that step, took a step forward in this game. You talk about those corners. I kind of came at them. I was clearly wrong about that because I thought that, you know, in that first game they gave up a lot. And I thought that the Browns were going to be able to do some things against them. They pretty much did their thing and held up as good as they needed to in this game, even once Minkah went down. Kenny Pickett didn't have the best game, right? He did have the interception, but he was able to come back, throw that pass to George Pickens. George Pickens was able to take it and take it to the house. I felt like that was one of the changing points in the game in terms of the momentum in that game happening. For the Browns, I think that they just have to figure out how to get Stefanski and Watson on the same page. If Watson isn't that same guy, they're just going to have to lean on the run. But the issue is when you pay the $200 and something million, you didn't pay that to hand it off. If they can figure it out,
Jerome Ford.
Jerome Ford, yeah, they can figure it out.
We deferring to Jerome Ford because our quarterback can't throw the ball right now. That's the reality that we're talking about.
That's a little nasty. I'm not gonna lie, that's nasty. But you know, it's week 2. Browns still have a good defense. Like they still have pieces, right? Like even if Deshaun Watson isn't Deshaun Watson, they can do what the Steelers are doing right now, playing elite defense, making sure that they're able to, you know, take opportunity or take advantage of those opportunities. Excuse me, it's getting late here. And make sure that they can make something happen. But you got to tip your hat to the Steelers, man. Like the way that they won this game, because I fell asleep at first. I was watching, I was like, it's close. And then to wake up and see how they won the game, I was like, that's crazy, bro. So shout out to the Steelers. And this division is gonna be up for grabs, man. I think it's clearly up for grabs. It's gonna be close this season. It's gonna be fun to watch this thing, how it ends this season. But I think it's wide open, bro. I do think it's wide open.
No, I agree with everything you said. I was just gonna throw this tidbit in that Cleveland, they needed that game. And when I say they needed that game, it's because, and Q, you talked about it Friday. You talked about like going into Pittsburgh and that, like you're cursed. I think that was your analogy. And you basically need to finally, kill the dragon, right? And my question is, because of the Chubb situation, because of the key components that Ace brought up about Stefanski, and most of all, right? I saw the Jets do it. I saw Dallas do it. I saw, of course, the Steelers do it. The Niners. These defenses that you think are elite, their key guys don't just make plays. Like, I think one of the most underrated plays Ace last night, Q, was the Cole Holcomb forced fumble or the Njoku. Like, your defense seems like it's Zadarius Smith, Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward centric. Now, Delpit made the big play early, but he didn't do anything else. Like, Jim Schwartz on the ESPN cover, telecast, they brought up that Jim Schwartz is teaching the Browns to celebrate after big plays. Well, a lot of their plays, I believe, were in that front five, that five-man front. Your linebackers, your secondary besides Delpit, like Thornhill, Martin Emerson in open space, like those guys didn't make a play. I think Denzel Ward had a big-time PBU or George Pickens on the third down. But what does that look like if you get an extra possession or a forced fumble, Q, in terms of that? And then one more thing is, I know you fell off of, it seems like Harrison Bryant or Njoku might not have been on the same page because of the turnovers. Elijah Moore, that trade, I thought that was, that need, was for a safety blanket for Deshaun. Said take the cheese, take the intermediate, take the middle. I didn't see that component at all. I told you I read the statistic about the Steelers, but Amari Cooper, you needed somebody else to help, especially after the Chubb. Jerome Ford was admirable, but what does the game look like if DPJ not only has a chunk play, but Elijah Moore has a chunk play, or Harrison Bryant does provide some yak for the tight end position? So,
yeah, I mean, we shouldn't be relying on Harrison Bryant to provide anything, to be honest. He's the third tight end on the depth chart. Like, I don't know why the opening play is to him. But that's a thing where you can have an issue with Kevin Stefanski, right? But as far as like safety blankets and things in place for Watson, they're there. Like, they're there. He's not taking them. That's the thing. Like, he's choosing hard mode at times when he doesn't have to. I can count like 8 or 9 different times where Cooper's open in the middle of the field and he could just take it, but he wants a one-on-one with Elijah Moore on a 50-50 ball, or he holds the ball long to, instead of dumping it off to the running back or getting it out hot because he sees a blitz. He wants to try to make a play and make 3 guys miss and try to scramble for 10 yards. It's the easy mode is there. He's choosing hard mode. And you choose to play the game on hard mode in AFC North. We know how that story. So that's really what it is with them. As far as Elijah Moore goes, they're trying to do some stuff with them, but honestly, like that's my least concern. Like, I just look at things where I'm like, hey, this guy's wide open. Just get it to him in stride. It's second down. It's not third and long. You don't have to get it all here in one play. It's coming down to decision making, right? That's what it is. That's what has been the concern. And it just doesn't seem like he's interested in taking what's in front of him, taking what's easy, And I don't know. You could have the best. You got Larry Fitzgerald out there in your slot. If you don't throw him the ball when he's open, then you don't really have that safety blanket. And maybe that's what he's used to, is having a DeAndre Hopkins where he could just throw those 50-50 balls and get away with it. But he ain't got DeAndre Hopkins. He has to find that safety blanket a different way. And if he's an elite quarterback, if he's a good quarterback, like, I don't even want to have the conversation about elite right now. If he's a good quarterback or a serviceable one, he's got to make that adjustment. Like, that's just the nuts and bolts of the NFL, right? Joe Burrow, if he doesn't have Jamar Chase and he only has Tyler Boyd, okay, I'm not going to have that deep ball, but I'm going to find a way to get the ball to Tyler Boyd and slot, find a way to punish him. If Lamar Jackson doesn't have Zay Flowers, that doesn't mean he forgets about Mark Andrews, or just because he has Zay Flowers, that doesn't mean he forgets about Mark Andrews. So, you have these options in front of you. They're there. You got to take them at some point instead of trying to make the big play happen every time. And it's more of a mentality thing. And maybe it's a processing thing. Maybe he's just late on it. Maybe that's what it is. But yeah, I think it's a mentality thing. I think he's trying to make the big plays when he doesn't have to. And maybe that might be because he doesn't trust the offense, or maybe it's because the offense is new to him. I don't know. And quite frankly, at this point, I don't think anybody cares. Like, they want to see some execution.
Okay, we have some super chats before we close the stream. Bengals 0-3 after Burrow had remarks. The Cleveland Turner family.
It's been 2 years, guys. Get it in.
Leo Sell, the AFC North is the most competitive division of the league, and it's not overreacting time for anyone's team. Ray Rack here says, Q, this really does feel like it could be 2021. The defense playing at a top 10 level, and the QB play is so bad that it doesn't matter.
I mean, to hit on the point with the defense, like, we shouldn't be sitting here in a game where the Browns had 2 turnovers and being like, man, we needed to get 2 more. Right? Like, in order to even up the turnover battle. We really shouldn't be sitting here in a game like that. But the offense gave up 4. Like, you were +2 in the turnover margin again. And we know where the 2 came from, right? We know where the 2 came from last game. So it's a issue. It's a issue.
So Cam here says, shout out to Guru stepping in to rep the greatest NFL franchise of all time.
You don't cover the Chiefs.
Tony here says, the Sean Watson search party shaking in. Ray Rack here said, Watson looked way slower this game than he did last week. It makes no sense, not just in passing. He looked like he was jogging when he ran the ball.
I don't know, man. I've seen enough where, like, I think the angles just make it look different, because I don't think he, like, became a different athlete, because he's definitely had, like, a second level burst to him last week in Cincinnati. He wasn't on the injury report. I just think, man, maybe it was the all white jerseys that make him look slower. I don't know, but it was, maybe he had a flak jacket on. Like, I don't know. It's probably one of those things instead of him not playing, not being as athletic anymore. I don't think he regressed physically in like a 7-day span.
Tony here says, respectfully, the problem is not scheme right now. Ray Rack says the Browns refuse to use the middle of the field and constantly let the Steelers have 12, 13 defenders on the field because they only use the sidelines. And then Tony here says, did someone say regression? David Miner says, kind of hard to move inside your 5. Punter killed us. That's right.
Why did the punter kill you, Donovan Peoples-Jones? Why didn't you just catch it? Like, why are we like, hey, let's see how long Percy Harvin could bounce the ball. Let's let it. How many bounces did he have in that game? Like, I talk about this all the time. People think I'm joking every time I say it. I'm dead serious. There's value in a possession punt returner. Just catch the damn ball, dog. You ain't got to return it. You ain't got to do it. If you get back to the 10, don't catch it. If you not on the 10, catch it. Like, that's all I need. Jim Leonard, my goat.
Hey, Tony, I know Football Outsiders is going, my guy, but dig up that DVOA on the Steelers offense for me, my guy. Please do that for me.
Ray Rack here says also, how many teams win a game?
Is
when
it
they
regression though? Like,
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
like,
How many teams win a game when they never have the ball inside the 30? Come on, Browns. Why can't they stop shooting
dog,
themselves in the
I
foot?
said in the preview, I was like, the only way the main way the Browns can lose this game if they decide is if they shoot themselves in the foot. They decided we not just gonna shoot ourselves in the foot. We gonna get an RPG and blow that thing all the way up. Like I have never seen a team more dedicated to shooting themselves in the foot than what they were this week.
Luis Cousins here says, do you think Stefanski may be the problem?
I don't think it matters because Deshaun's not gonna be the one that goes first.
Yeah, that's true. Not with that contract.
Yeah. Unless they feel comfortable putting him on the bench, like, you know, and does it matter if it's Stefanski, if it's Watson? We know who's going first.
True. Few teams will be able to move the ball against the Browns defense. If Stefanski just runs it 50 times a game, Browns will make the playoffs, right? Hunt to victory.
I would hold off on that until we see them have like a game where you get some competent quarterback play. No disrespect to Joe Burrow, just the rain conditions made it impossible to play quarterback at an efficient level there. Because, you know, the secondary, like they do well in man coverage. And if you target them on the outside, they're going to do a good job on you. But the way, if you play that much man, you're going to leave some spots open. And, you know, I'm interested to see like when they play a Lamar Jackson, what does that look like? We still feel the same way about that defense? So they still have tests that they need to pass before we can go gung-ho about 10, top 5, top 10. But so far it looks good, but their job's been easy. You know, play a team that can't throw the ball because of the weather conditions, play a Pittsburgh Steelers team where you know that they struggle to move the ball on offense. So, you know, and then this week it's the Titans. They've been struggling offensively as well. So, you know, I think really you want to see Baltimore, you want to see San Francisco. If you have great defensive performance after that, then we can start getting really excited about it. But by that point, you know, I hope the offense is competent.
And then Noah still here says Tom Brady surpassed the Steelers in 20 years. And last but not least, Eric here says funniest part of the game was the Steelers kick returner doing
a toe tap on the sideline.
That was crazy, man.
And that wasn't the worst special teams play in that game. That's the crazier part. Like it was like a 1-up. Like, hey, I'm gonna cost this team about 40 yards of field position right here. And Donovan Peoples-Jones is like, bet. Why he cost you 35?
The fumble. Don't forget the hit fumble on Gunner. Gunner should not be a Steeler anymore. That's his last down.
Oh, was that the tight end that fumbled when Denzel Ward hit him?
No, the 5'8" midget. Yeah.
Okay, guys, and with that, we'll leave it there. Make sure you check out Manscaped. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. Follow everybody on Twitter. Shout out to Guru for coming in to the show again. The free will be coming back on Friday, so check out for the preview. Take it easy, guys. We'll see you next time. Peace out.